Annie Glenn, the widow of former Senator and astronaut John Glenn, died today from complications of the coronavirus.
She was 100 years old. She lived in the public eye right beside her husband. Our Sean Lanier joins us with how her hometown is remembering her legacy.
They were just truly untouched by fame. They were just John and Annie.
It's how they'll be remembered here in New Concord as John and Annie, always together from their childhood to those historical moments.
One thing he said to her was, life will not be dull, and believe me, he meant that.
Jane CASTOR was Annie's cousin and volunteered at the John and Annie Glenn Museum, which is also John's childhood home. And we're behind each picture. There's a story.
Well, it was an honor to be here and talk about them.
One of those stories shared was how in many of these public pictures Annie was seen by John's side, but her stutter stopped her from doing any speaking.
Nobody thought any less of her because of it.
Jane says Annie was always fun, humble, and courageous because it wasn't until she was in her 50s that she went to get help for her stuttering. And in 3 weeks,
she was able to call John on the phone. So it was... I get kind of choked up now because that was, you know, something she worked hard at, and all of a sudden she could speak.
A memory that the museum's board president, George St. Clair, says will always stay with him.
I'm just so proud to, you know, to be part of this community and to think that, you know, I actually knew John and Annie. That's just something special.
One final memory for George in this museum was the milestone of Annie's 100th birthday, which was on February 17th, a date they say she had marked on her calendar.
It's all about Annie.
So they dedicated this wall of photos to her and celebrated with tea. And even though Annie couldn't make the party, this community will always cherish the time she was here.
It was always a good time when they were here, and it meant a lot to the community to have them back.
Right now, the museum says it's unable to do anything to honor the life and legacy of Annie, but they say as soon as they can, they will. Looking for you in New Concord, Sean Lanier, NBC4.
Yeah, that is a century to